morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you to India's mega initiative in the telecom sector, Next Generation Wireless, the Way Forward. And this summit is brought to you by E18, a division of Network 18 Media and Investments Limited, and is presented by Qualcomm in association with CNBC TV 18. The knowledge partner of this mega initiative is Analysis Mason and is aptly supported by our gold partners who are Nokia Siemens Networks, Techelec and ZTE Telecom. Our media partners are My Mobile, Telecom Watch and HT Mint.
The breadth and scale of the mobile industry is unprecedented. There are over 5 billion wireless subscribers worldwide, with more than 1 billion 3G mobile broadband connections, and by 2015 we actually expect more than 3 billion 3G mobile broadband connections. And in India, smartphones are actually outpacing the sale of laptops since 2009. It's quite clear that mobile broadband and mobile phones will actually define the computing and internet experience for majority of Indians. The scale of the mobile industry is unprecedented. It's actually unmatched by any other industry in the world. So the mobile platform, which includes all the technologies, the applications, the software that go and for the mobile phones, is actually now being applied to other devices as well, including set-top boxes and TVs. It is quite interesting that if the scale of innovation, if the pace of innovation that has characterized the mobile industry can now be applied to other devices within the home and within the office, one can only imagine the positive impact that will have on the lives of businesses and on people. So with that, thank you.
I think, to me, in a very simple manner, the next generation wireless is a way and a mean to provide access to internet to the common man wherever he wants, at affordable prices and at speeds which gives him good experience. Now this has many words attached to it: data revolution, digitization, etc., but I think if I was to look at it in a simplistic manner, that's where it is. It is, without a doubt, this whole data revolution or the mobile or the internet access bit is the most exciting topic in the world today, no doubt about that. One thing which I do want to point out, while the topic is next generation wireless, I think we all need to realize that this generation needs these services the maximum, because this generation needs to plug the gap between rich and poor. And therefore, it's imperative on all of us to act now, act boldly, act decisively, most important, to act together in harmony without confrontation. I'm sure we will be achieving that. So we look forward to your continued support and guidance on what I'm sure will be a wonderful, exciting, and most fulfilling journey. Thank you very much.
First of all, thank you very much for asking me to be here to talk about the next generation wireless and what's the way forward. My vision is, and you were talking about fiber optics, my vision is that the maximum data will flow through the fiber optic network. Maximum data, maximum speed, maximum width will happen through the fiber optics. If I can connect every Gram Panchayat with fiber optics in the next 2 years, for example, which is our commitment, then what happens in the process is all your spectrum gets released. There's much less pressure on spectrum. So you can do a lot of things with spectrum then. Who accesses it? A person in a remote village needs to access that information. How does he access it? Well, at the present juncture, if he accesses it with devices that are available today, he cannot afford it, because the cost of devices in 3G is unaffordable. Well, he can't pay 1,000 rupees a month. So we need relatively cheaper devices so that he can access it. That's why the rationale for Akash. You have a device which is 3,500. It's pretty crude at the moment. The second generation Akash will come with 3G. The second generation Akash will have a 800 megahertz processor, right? The third generation Akash will have many more applications, and the fourth generation Akash will be like your mobile phone, and it will still be 3500. This is really a great forum. Thank you very much thank you very much, especially for the media to have invited me, because this is a forum through which we can educate each other. Thank you and all the best.
Phone? Tablet? Feel free. It's Galaxy Note.
Everyone dreams of becoming successful. Everyone wants to be famous. Everyone wants to be recognized for making a change and creating a difference in people's lives. UTI Mutual Fund and CNBC TV 18 present the Financial Advisor Awards 2011, powered by ICRA. Here's your chance to get recognized as India's most trusted financial advisor. Nominate yourself today.
Presenting sponsor UTI Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. Read the offer document carefully before investing. Powered by ICRA. Partner Exchange MCX Stock Exchange, India's new stock exchange. Technology partner Miles Software Solutions for Financial Services.
कहता है अगर ट्रकिंग में ही लाना था तो MBA क्यों करवाया? पर कभी-कभी कुछ चीजें सोच बदल देती हैं। महिंद्रा नेविस्टा बदल रहा है भारतीय ट्रकिंग को। नई सोच, नई उम्मीद और नए नजरिए से अब आएगा और कहेगा, पापा, you are great.
Hey, I'm here.
Reception? We're checking out. Finally, home.
It's good to be back.
Kohler bathrooms. So stylish and beautiful, you can't stay away from them.
जब बड़ी हो जाओगी तब मिलेगा। ये तुम्हारे लिए। अब तुम बड़ी जो हो गई हो।
रिश्तों को लगे हीरे की उम्र। PC Jeweler for generations.
It all starts with a Windows 7 PC.
Clearly, we have a very good panel here. Right at the end, you have two leading vendors and there are 3 service providers. So pretty much the entire spectrum that is covered. Without any further ado, let me go to Dr. Lakshminath Reddy Donditi to my right from Qualcomm to introduce the entire subject and give us a sense of the next generation wireless ecosystem.
We are right now at a place where several chipset vendors, and with Qualcomm leading the way, have multi-mode devices where, taking from GSM, the oldest technology we have in India, to LTE, all of that would be available on a single device. Therefore, a user could pretty much look at buying that one device and say that I want a multi-mode device and I want voice and data access. So as long as they make that decision and hoping that we can come up with data and voice plans that would work seamlessly as well, then there is a world vision where the user's choice in all of these things becomes very simple. Then they can go back to which one has the best camera, which one looks good, and so on.
So let me hand it over to Ashwini from MTS, a company that is largely seen as a data player, for your thoughts on this entire subject.
You know, the additional challenge from an operator perspective that we see to be happening now, which has never happened earlier, is the coexistence of all these networks. You know, earlier what used to happen, there was a good amount of time lag between, let's say, from FDM to TDM. So most of the network was kind of, you know, the FDM stopped working, it went on to TDM, or TDM stopped working, you know, it went on to WCDMA or CDMA networks as a technology. But, you know, now the technology have moved so fast from, let's say, 3G networks, CDMA networks to the 4G networks. And the other complexity that has got added is now, you know, in all the history of our wireless networks, the application that we were selling to the consumer was only one, the voice application. But with the data coming into the play, there are multiple applications that we need to serve to the consumer. So there is a need to make these networks coexist, because each type of network, whether TDM, let's say GSM or CDMA, WCDMA or EVDO or the LTE network, have some niche services capability which need to coexist.
So with that, let me hand it over to Abhay. Clearly the ecosystem for 3G is something that he's very closely involved with, and it would be nice to hear his thoughts on this subject.
Thank you, Siddharth. Broadly, we have to look at four different things, in fact, as an ecosystem when we are talking about it. The first is the spectrum and the technology. The second ecosystem, Ashwini rightly pointed out, is the network piece. The third component of the ecosystem clearly comes out to be the devices. The fourth one, which is above all, which will actually drive that volume from 600 million to 5 billion, or the 2% penetration of mobile broadband in India, right up to whatever 50-60% that we can see in next 4-5 years, and that's the application piece. Now, if you have to make these four ecosystem work, there are two things which are above all these. One is an enabler, and that enabler is government. Every one of these ecosystems, be it technology or spectrum, there has to be a government enablement. Network on backhaul, there has to be a government enablement. Rights, permissions, laying of fibers, everything becomes an issue. If you are talking about devices, clarity is what the government needs to give, so that the kind of multiband, the kind of pattern, if 700 band is going to come, it is not going to come, when it is going to come, that kind of a clarity the government has to enable in order to make it happen. So the enabling layer, and application minister himself pointed out that that's going to be a big enabler in order to make this mass mobile broadband communication happen. So that's another point that needs to be there. Above all, then comes the consumer layer. Now, they are the kings. All this, whatever we are trying to do, is particularly for that consumer layer.
Turn to the last operator on the panel, Mr. Mallikarjuna Rao, for your thoughts on this subject. And clearly he sort of set the tone for what you're going to talk about.
India as a country, as the mobile ecosystem, we are fortunate to be late in the bandwagon of mobility, but we've been fortunate to be latest in the country. You don't talk about ATM anymore in any of the deployments which we are doing, whether it is 3G, 4G. We forgot the word of ATM, and that is where Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and American operators are stuck with huge investment which have gone into building ATM networks. So we are fortunate to have a late entrant, but latest technology available. I think the great challenge for this country and for all of us in the industry ecosystem is building competence. Right? When we have been people who have been pretty much using or taking advantage of the developed ecosystem, I think this is the time for us to really think about developing as a part of or leading through developing the ecosystem in the 4G environment.
Let me now go to the last speaker on the panel, a big company which has done quite a lot in its areas of competence. Mr. Sethuraman, your views.
Thank you, Siddharth. I will just take on from where the panelists had left about, talking about coexistence of multiple technologies and looking at how to avoid these complexities. We, from a technology perspective, since we are providing product solutions cutting across the various technologies, what we are constantly looking at is that how can we enable these multiple technologies to coexist. So much so, from an infrastructure perspective, we are trying to look at simplifying the architecture and putting them together so that it enables the service providers to offer different services on the fly. So one is to look at how can we optimize the entire infrastructure perspective. But the other point, which is the key driver behind this, is what is stemming from what the minister in the morning he said, or Mr. Akhil Gupta in his opening remarks was mentioning quite a number of times, is the affordability of these services. So if we have to make any of these services, be it voice or broadband connectivity to internet, etc., affordable to the users, we need to look at how we can make the entire ecosystem affordable.
I thank you all for being here. A special thanks to the entire panel for being here, and I hope it was good for all of us being here. Thank you very much for watching.
यात्रा.com के हॉलिडेज पे सफर से लेके शॉपिंग और कमरे से लेके खाने तक सारे टेंशन हम पे छोड़ दीजिए। आप बस मौज कीजिए। यात्रा.com, क्रिएटिंग हैप्पी ट्रैवलर्स।
डाइट? वाइफ यार, सीने में जलन। Cool it with Gelusil.
See in your eyes, baby, the way you make me feel. It's the way I feel beside you. It's the way you make me feel. It's the way you make me feel. Monte Carlo.
गुड न्यूज, डेप्यूटी मैनेजर बनने वाला है।
सच? मुझे भी तुम्हें एक गुड न्यूज देनी है। इंक्रीमेंट की बात कर रही हूँ।
चलो।
कहीं आप अपने सपनों को किस्मत पर तो नहीं छोड़ रहे? बिरला सन लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के प्रोटेक्शन सॉल्यूशंस।
ओह सॉरी शर्मा जी, और ये क्या यार, सुबह से कॉल ट्राई कर रहा हूँ और देख हर बार नेटवर्क बिजी।
कैसे?
और नो आइडिया यार।
Get idea. Switch to Idea for congestion-free network without changing your number. Call 1-800-270-0000.
एक वक्त सब कुछ था, बड़ा घर, खानदान और हाँ, सिल्वर स्पून। लेकिन सबसे करीब था एक सवाल, Have I made it large? सिल्वर स्क्रीन में उतरना था और फिर लोगों के दिलों में लंगड़ा त्यागी पहुंच गया और पहुंचा वही सवाल, Have I made it large? आज सिल्वर स्पून की जगह ब्लैक गिटार है। आज भी सबसे करीब वही सवाल, Have I made it large?
Seagram's Royal Stag Mega Music. It's your life. Make it large.
सबसे बड़ी खबर आ रही है जयपुर से, तोते को हुआ है डेंड्रफ। कोई रह गया हाथ, ये डेंड्रफ वाले तोते का घर है। वाला तोता देखो, डेंड्रफ वाला तोता। लोगों के तोते के सर पे डेंड्रफ आया कहाँ से? आइए पूछते हैं।
हो गया ना पोपट? पेश है बिरला व्हाइट वॉल केयर पुट्टी। दीवारों को रखे मजबूत, नमी से सुरक्षित, यानी पपड़ी की छुट्टी।
Good afternoon. So for the last panel discussion of the day, we're going to touch upon the end-to-end services piece of the industry. So far we've heard a lot about regulation, technology, operations, about the roadmap, and I think the last piece of the puzzle is really thinking about from a consumer perspective, looking at different verticals, what is it that people will be using on wireless broadband networks, on next generation networks, and really thinking about what is that entire end-to-end solution that's going to be provided. So with that, I think we've got an excellent panel up here. We have two operators being represented, MTS and Tata. We've got one of the world's leading content and applications providers, Google, so I'm sure we're going to get tremendous inputs, and the individuals themselves also have a great amount of experience. So, without dilly-dallying, why don't we just jump straight into the topic. I think the first question that a lot of people probably have on their minds in the audience here is, what is end-to-end? What does it mean? What's an example? Really, who's responsible for creating this end-to-end? And I think, Shahid, maybe we start with you.
I think it's a very important aspect to dwell on. What is end-to-end? What does it mean in terms of offerings? Eventually, you put a consumer in front of you and a consumer need in perspective to any end-to-end offering. Because any offering that is without the definition of the consumer segment is hard to be defined. Let me take the example of a school bus tracking application that we built, knowing that there's a market out there for enterprises to address the need of properly tracking buses using, let's just say, ubiquitously available technologies such as wireless and the positioning within wireless. So there's a product out there in which Tata Teleservices integrates what is called a device as a modem, a portal, a mapping software, and a service that we go out and sell to schools, letting them, for example, have reliable, dependable, sustainable access to a service that allows parents to be alerted when buses are arriving close to the bus stop that they wish to register for, and also for school administration to track, record, and be able to, let's say, cloud store the maps or the routes that the bus had taken over the last month. It's a very narrow, very precise, very small service, but to my mind that is end-to-end.
Who's responsible for doing this? I mean, clearly the traditional operator model, particularly in India, is sell voice. Sell voice cheaper, sell voice faster. So what happens in terms of who's got to pull all this together?
Thank you, Kunal. Absolutely. I mean, up until now, selling anything here has been access. And for those of you who don't know, MTS is one of the upstart operators on the CDMA platform. And so we naturally went to data. As of Q3, we had 33% of our revenues from data, but it is all access predominantly. So we have been thinking a lot over the last 6-9 months in terms of how to go beyond it, because in this market, sooner or later everything gets commoditized. And so we have been thinking about end-to-end service offerings, if you will. And yes, as an upstart operator, we largely outsource many of our activities, be it on the network side, management side, be it on the product development side, etc., etc. But this is one thing that we take seriously, that you cannot outsource. We believe if we want to get the lion's share of the revenues and or the profits, we have to be in the driver's seat in terms of pulling together the services. And we heard about starting from the consumer, but also thinking about pre-sales, post-sales, stitching together the entire value chain.
Gulzar, I mean, given that you have the growth potentially in connectivity, at least you now have availability of infrastructure, what do you see as the primary challenge in getting consumers to understand these end-to-end solutions and get them on board and adopted and moving on to these new networks?
I think just to first comment on the very concept of end-to-end, when you start thinking about it from a consumer perspective, from a user perspective, not from a network, not from a carrier perspective, it gets very personal. And end-to-end is either personal to an enterprise or it gets personal to a user, because every user's needs are different. And so, how do you create these end-to-end services which are catering to each user, each demographic, each kind of consumption, is really a humongous challenge. And I feel like, to answer one of your questions, that who is responsible for creating this? I feel more and more that we are sort of, everybody who is here is an enabler. We cannot actually create an end-to-end service which is scalable and which has the capability to address the entire audience of users out there. It just can't be there. And that's why the most successful things in the world that we have seen, for example, we'll take smartphones for example, and the marketplace of apps, is when you enable the ecosystem to do it. And internet sort of represents that ecosystem today. And it sort of, is an umbrella which covers everything that can possibly exist in the domain of applications, in the domain of services. All of that could be delivered through the internet in whatever form of the internet, right? Whether an application or a web service or a telecom service which is offered to the user.
Thanks again to everyone. I think we've had a great discussion here. Obviously, a lot of unanswered questions in terms of exactly how things are going to develop, but I think we do see a roadmap emerging in terms of what are the important focus areas and how operators are really waking up to the fact that they've got to do more than just generate voice. They've actually got to think about an end-to-end service and a solution to get customers on board and to give them what they really want. So thank you again, everyone. Thanks, Gulzar, Shahid, Chinu, for joining us up here. I think everyone's gotten to learn a lot out of the discussion. Thank you.
If you look at the numbers, the number of 3G connections in India is already exceeding the number of DSL connections. The number of smartphone shipments are already exceeding the number of laptop shipments. So it's very clear to me that mobile broadband and mobile computing will define the computing and internet experience for majority of Indians.
We have various technologies. For any technology to be successful, we principally can say that there are 3 E's which are, very important. First E is the ecosystem. When I say the ecosystem, there are various players in this ecosystem, including me and you in terms of, the users, the operators, the service providers, the regulators, the device manufacturers, and so on. LTE offers, as you know, in the range of 100 megabits downlink speeds, which gives good user experience, both in terms of browsing and so on, but also in terms of, the real-time applications that the end users can use. LTE technology as a technology is very cost efficient when it comes to cost per megabit. So this basically is the third E, which is going to drive down the costs in terms of the affordability of these services.
If you look at the Indian market, next generation wireless network means growth in the data space, and India went from a growth space of adding subscribers, but now we are hitting a subscriber peak, and with 14 operators you need to find how to differentiate yourself and gain and increase your ARPU. So I think the role of policy in the data network and the speed of launching new services would be very important.
What we have seen in the past is that it is the wireless which brings in the telecom revolution the fastest possible way. We saw it in 2G, so I have no doubt in my mind that 3G now and the LTE going forward will be the technology of choice which will bring the broadband wireless revolution into India. There is absolutely no doubt I have about that. Our strategy is pretty simple. We call it as the ABC strategy, which is to look at the operator's average revenue per user, which stands for A. For B, it is bandwidth, and C, it is cost. So we are looking at constantly leveraging technology and bringing in the benefits to the operators by increasing their revenues, that is ARPU, reducing their costs and enabling it to handle broadband, and thereby they can provide affordable services to the end users.
The biggest challenge that we're going to face in India is understanding what consumers really want and why they would want to get connected to broadband. And I think that's actually where the biggest opportunity for operators are. And we've heard that today during the conference, that operators in India are taking a slightly different approach to driving broadband connectivity. They really are looking at providing end-to-end solutions. And unlike operators in more mature markets that basically have become almost dumb pipes, carriers in India have the opportunity to define what the solution is going to be, what direction consumers are going to go in, what types of applications and services they're going to use. And this is really going to define the way the industry develops in the coming 3 to 5 years.
Alan Lamb.
And
Martin Crowe,
171,
Jayasuriya,
223,
Inzamam,
390,
Brian Lara with a broken jaw,
615.
Sangakkara.
You remember everything.
I've experienced it all, so I can never forget.
Presenting an interactive teaching tool that makes learning a real-life experience so that children understand and never forget. DigiClass, lessons for life.
Instruments for professionals.
अधिक मूल्य कम ब्याज सब मिनटों में मनपुरम गोल्ड लोन। जब घर में पड़ा है सोना दबका है कोरोना।
New revolutionary Nokia NFC. Just tap to share and play. Share photos, videos, play with another mobile, or pair with a headset, and lots more. Just tap to try something new on the new Nokia smartphones.
See in your eyes, baby. It's the way you make me feel. It's the way I feel beside you. It's the way you make me feel. It's the way you make me feel. Monte Carlo.
Crazy about Grand Prix? Now record the entire Grand Prix season in high definition with Tata Sky Plus HD.
वही पुरानी ट्रैफिक जैम, इसलिए मैंने नई बीट डीजल खरीद ली. And boy, was I surprised. Easy steering, zip zap. ट्रैफिक जैम से होते होंगे, पर not for me.
Chevrolet Beat डीजल की इंटेली ड्राइव टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ अब इंडिया ड्राइव खुल के.
वाओ, अपनी गाड़ी में पिकनिक. थैंक्स पापा.
ये स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया कार लोन्स का कमाल है. सिर्फ 1725 पर लाख के EMI.
That's so affordable. नहीं तो पहले buying a car was so expensive, ना?
For affordable car loans, visit your SBI branch today. Blackberry's Menswear presents Young Achievers.
In the beginning it was difficult, but of course I had 4 or 5 people who believed in me and in my work. We have competition next door, we have competition on our left. It's going to be difficult, but I feel confident because I think Bombay and India still need some quality product restaurants and we still don't have them.
Brought to you by Blackberry's Menswear. Go shop. This is TV18. And you're watching CNBC TV18.
Brought to you by Tata, leadership with trust.
Brought to you by Tata, leadership with trust.
Hello and a warm welcome to each and every one of you here today. You're with me, Big Brain, watching Tata Crucible, the corporate edition 2011 from Pune. It's one of those phenomenal cities in India where the passion for reading, knowledge and information is so high. And in many ways, that translates into outstanding teams at a quiz like this. Let's begin by taking a look at our 6 finalists at Pune at Tata Crucible 2011. On my far right, qualifying as our first finalist here today, are E-clerks, representing them, Sagar and Prasad. As team number 2 in our final here today, Ashish Singh and Samrat Mukherjee, DCB, the DCB Bank, as table number 2. As our third finalist, we have here today a young gaming company from Pune, Mind Tickle, representing them, Ravi Handa and S. Bandari. On my left, technology giant, Cognizant, representing them, Sumed Vijayakar and Ameya Manal. As our 5th team here today, we have with us Darshan and Kapil, and they represent John Deere. As we move to our final team here today, representing Amdocs Pune, Gagandeep Arora, Chaitanya. We move straight into our final here today. 6 teams on stage, 5 rounds of quizzing. Round 1 of our final, as we pick action, it's time for global knowledge. We're going to start going clockwise, and we're going to start with team number 1. 10 points, the value of an answer in the first round of this quiz. It passes clockwise, 5 seconds the duration of time. We pick action on the first round. I read out the questions and it passes across. Irrespective of who answers, the value is 10 if you get it right. Question direct to you, e-clerks.